Hello friends, welcome to the channel. This is my 2007 Ford Focus. It's my little work car that I used to drive back and forth to work. It's got over 270,000 miles on it. It's been a real little car. Starting to give me the old clickety click on the driver's side front axle. So I'm going to change that out today. And I'm going to show you guys how I do it, and maybe it'll help some of you guys. These are the tools that I'm going to be using in today's video. You can substitute the tools any which way you want. I'm just using what I have on hand here. I'm using an impact wrench, for instance. You can use a ratchet, you can use wrenches, whatever. And I'm going to show you the sizes of the sockets and things I'll be using. But keep in mind, this is an old car. It's had several owners. I don't know its history. If it's had aftermarket parts put on it, the bolts may be different sizes than what you'll encounter. Of course, I need a way to lift the car. I'm going to use a floor jack and a jack stand. Got a little flashlight I'll be using. 19mm socket for the lugs, the lug nuts. 11/16" wrench for the ball joint bolt. I've got a 3-inch extension, a 5-inch extension. 11/16" socket again for the ball joint nut, and a 5/8" socket for the ball joint bolt head. I've got a hammer, 32mm socket for the axle nut. I've got a little steel rod here that I'm just using for a punch. And I've got this old chisel that I'm going to be using for just to pry the old axle out with. Soft-faced hammer. Pickle fork. Got a little piece of pipe I'll be using as a large punch to knock that ball joint out. And of course, I'll need a torque wrench. I'll be torquing the ball joint bolt to 37 pound-feet or foot-pounds. And I'll be torquing the axle nut to 200. So I've got one wrench here that'll cover both. This one does 25 to 250. And of course a catch pan to catch any fluid that'll come out when I pull that axle. Never hurts to have a shop rag around. And of course my impact wrench there. But that's all the tools I'll be using in this video. One more thing before I get this car up in the air. I am not a professional mechanic. This video is for reference only. I'm just an old hillbilly that saves money by taking care of my own and my family's vehicles. So let's get rolling. Time to remove the ball joint bolt that holds the ball joint into the knuckle. I don't believe this is a factory bolt, but it's 5/8 on this side on the head of the bolt and 11/16 on this side on the nut. So I've got me an 11/16" wrench wedged there on the nut. And I'm going to hit the 5/8 bolt head with the impact. I'll tap the bolt out with a punch. Now we've got our axle loose from the steering assembly. So here's our axle, and here is where it meets up with the transmission. So I'm going to get my little pry bar out here and get right in between that axle and that transmission and just give it a little nudge. There's nothing but a little hog ring holding it in there, a little retaining ring, and it should pop right out. Alright, so I've got this old pry bar. It's actually an old cold chisel, a long one, but any kind of pry bar will do, as long as you can get in there with it. There it went, I believe. Oh. You also need a catch pan to catch any fluids that might come out of there. That was a little tougher than I thought it would be, but I got it loose. So this is my old axle. This is my new one. Before I try to cram a new axle in, I always like to compare it with the old one. Make sure I've got the same spline count. The axle's the same length. These two match up good. This little ring right here is what was holding the axle into the transmission. That's why I had to pry it out. You can see on this old one some marks on it where it was holding in there. But let's get this new one put in there. This section here is what rides on your transmission seal. So you want to make sure that that is clean and free of damage. And it's also a good time to check your transmission seal. If you're going to replace it, now's the time to do it. Mine looks good. So I'm going to start this axle back in there the same way the other one came out. Of course, I'll only be able to push it so far. About right there. Now the retaining ring is keeping me from being able to push it on in there. So I'm going to have to tap it on in. So I've got my nut on here. I've got this axle in as straight a line as I can hold it there. I've got my knuckle assembly tied back just so I can get this on camera. It's not really necessary. It does help get it out of the way. And you'll feel it pop into place. That one just popped in. So I can take my nut off. Okay, so time to fish it back through here. All right, we're in. All right, so the instructions that came with this axle says to tighten the nut to 200 foot-pounds. I'm just going to start it on here with the impact. Then I'll switch over to my torque wrench. And we'll go to 200 foot-pounds. Time to put the ball joint pinch bolt back in. And I'm going to torque that nut to 37 foot-pounds. I call it foot-pounds. Somebody's going to comment and correct me and say pound-feet. Don't you just love those guys? Those guys that watch a video, claim they already know how to do the job, and then leave a nasty comment correcting something somebody did. Those people are full of baloney. If they already know the job, they're not sitting around watching videos on how to do a job. That always struck me as funny. And we're all done. Okay, that's going to do it. We're done with it. So I know I'm going to get some comments saying I should have done things this way or that way. I should have removed the brake caliper to make more room and the rotor and stuff like that. Unbolted the sway bar end link. But I wanted to keep it as simple as possible because this is the way that I really do it. You know, I didn't just do this for this video. This is how I would go about doing that. And that's what I wanted to share here. You don't have to be a professional to take care of most of your own auto repairs. And that's what this channel is going to be about, not just auto, but anything around the home. You know, if you're a family man, if you've got a home and a family to take care of, you can't afford to call a professional to work on every single thing. Of course, there are some things you'll have to, but most things you can take care of yourself. And that's the things that I'm going to be sharing on this channel. So if you like that, go ahead and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you will. But that's all I got, and I'll talk with y'all again soon.